Hey, I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC Fight Night 77, Belfort versus Henderson 3, which happens on November 7th. Overall, I like this card. There's a lot of good prospects on this card. Jimmie, a lot of prospects fighting each other in this card. Like Jimmie Rivera versus Pedro Munhoz. Watch out for that Rashid Magomedov versus Dorino fight. That's going to be good. Almeida fights Anthony Birchak. Gilbert Teixeira versus Cummins is actually a pretty good fight too. I do like Lawler versus Maldonado. Johnny Case is fighting. So Skelly versus Kevin Souza. That should be pretty good actually. So I actually like this card overall. It's actually got some pretty good fights. Some real sleeper fights on here too. You know, I can see like Alex Cowboy's fighting. He's always fun. Find a solid guy in Piotr Hallmann. So, you know what? Let's get started. Vitor, the Phenom Belfort, fights Dan Henderson. Belfort has a 24-11 record, 17 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 4 losses by KO or TKO and 2 losses by sub. 38 years old, training out of the Black Zillions. He's a former UFC light heavyweight champion, and he's actually defeated Henderson by TKO back in November of 2013. Some things to note about him, he is not, for this fight, he's not, legally allowed to use TRT. Same with Dan Henderson. At Belfort's best, his stand-up's good. He's real heavy-handed. He has some good kicks. Has a particularly good head kick. He is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with some pretty solid, not great, but solid enough takedown defense. Hendo, 31-13 record, 15 wins by KO, 15 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 4 losses by sub. Man, he's 45 years old. He's getting up there in age. He's training out of Team Quest. He's a former Strikeforce light heavyweight champion. He's only won 2 of his last 7 fights. He most recently beat Tim Bosch, knocked him out in the first round. He's actually defeated Belfort back in October 2006 in Pride by unanimous decision. He's also not on TRT. However, he's really well known for his really strong right hand. It's his overhand right can knock guys out. He's just generally heavy-handed. He's good in the clinch, and his clinch striking is good. His offensive wrestling ability isn't too bad, but his takedown defense is actually not that good, considering that he is, was in the Olympics, or has such a high wrestling pedigree. In MMA, it seems like his takedown defense really isn't good. A lot of guys manage to take him down. Another thing that has to be said about Hendo, the guy's just declining. You can tell that he's getting a lot older, and also his chin is noticeably deteriorating. He gets rocked a lot. He has been getting knocked out. Belfort's actually the first guy to knock him out, and after that, Gegard knocked him out, and then he's been rocked by guys like Shogun, just dropped him, and whatnot. With that said, I know Belfort's off TRT, but Henderson's just getting old. Belfort, he's getting old too. He's at 38 years old, and he's probably gonna drop off pretty quick, if not already, especially not being on TRT anymore. But I still think he's fresher than Hendo at this point. He can still hit hard. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Vitor Belfort to win this by KO or TKO. Next fight with that, Patrick Cummins fights Gilbert Teixeira. Cummins, 8-2 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 34 years old. Both these guys are 6'2". They're both the same height. Patrick Cummins' game really is in his wrestling, top control, and ground and pound. He takes you down, he keeps you down, and he'll throw a lot of ground and pound. His stand-up, it's average, it's nothing great, and his chin really isn't that good. Gilbert Teixeira, 23-4 record, 13 wins by KO or TKO, 7 wins by sub. He's 35 years old. He is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Really good top game. His striking style is more inside boxing, but he's pretty heavy-handed. His wrestling, both offensively and defensively, is pretty solid. And he's got a good chin. This is a guy that, like, I don't even know if John Jones dropped him. He fought OSP, took some of his harder shots and remained standing, and eventually submitted him. This fight's interesting, though, because Glover Teixeira, remember when he fought Phil Davis, how bad he looked, and he couldn't get out of the ride position against him. Now, I could see Patrick Cummins getting takedowns on Teixeira, possibly. And he does have good top control himself. So this one's really interesting, just because we've seen a guy that primarily wrestled Teixeira to a win, and I can see Cummins doing that. However, I don't like Cummins' chin, and I do feel like Teixeira hits pretty hard. And I don't know if Cummins is as good of a wrestler as Phil Davis is, but one's tough to say. It's pretty debatable, to be honest with you. I can see Cummins getting a decision win on Teixeira. However, similar to how Davis did it. However, I think that Teixeira was going to find his chin sometime during the fight. And Cummins, like I said, he just doesn't take a shot well. I'm going to go over Teixeira by KO or TKO. Next fight after that, Thomas Almeida fights Anthony Birchak. Interesting fight here, and I'll say this right now. Like I said, I don't look at odds, but I'm going to assume that Thomas Almeida, being the more popular fighter, is probably going to be the favorite here. There is major upset potential in this fight. So let me explain. Almeida, 19-0, undefeated record, 15 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub, 24 years old, training out of Shuto Box and Macaca Gold team. His kickboxing is really good. He's a high-volume striker. He uses a lot of body strikes. He obviously has flying knees on his arsenal as he knocked out Brad Pickett with one. And his overall grappling is improving. You take him down, he's getting back to his feet. Anthony Birchak, 12-2 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission, 29 years old. His stand-up's actually pretty good. He knocked out Joe Soto cold. And he's a good wrestler. But the thing that actually makes Anthony Birchak good, to be honest with you, is that he's super aggressive. I mean, he is a fast starter, and he's always pushing forward. Problem with Almeida, and it really showed in the Pickett fight, but it's actually shown in other fights too, he's a very slow starter. He's up against a very fast starter. So if Birchak wins, I can see him winning, but it'd be in the first round. It'd be a first round finish. So that's why I think there's some upset potential there. However, once Thomas Almeida gets going, his volume doesn't decrease. He keeps striking at the same volume and at the same pace. He moves well. He'll aim for the body. And he really knows how to pick apart his opponent. I think at least if this, I think he'll have a hard first round, but I think that Almeida can take it back at least in the second and third round. Birchak's tough. He's a guy that doesn't really lose by strikes. Both his losses are by sub, and that's really not something I see Almeida doing to Birchak. So I'll go Thomas Almeida by decision to win this one. Like I said, though, the first round is going to be very telling, I think. Next fight after that, Piotr Hallmann fights Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Hallmann, 15-4 record, 7 wins by KO or TKO, 7 wins by sub. Also has 2 losses by KO or TKO, 28 years old, on a 2-fight losing streak. He's actually only won 1 of his last 4 fights. Really unfortunate, too. He's a good fighter. He's solid ever. His stand-up's good, his grappling's good. One thing about Hallmann, too, he's really game. I mean, he's a guy that's just always in the fight. You can watch his fight against Tibau. When, he got, hurt bad by Massaran Duba, and then he came back and submitted him with a Kimura. He's a guy that's always in the fight. Alex Cowboy Oliveira, 12-3 record with 1 draw and 1 no contest. 8 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. Also has 2 losses by submission, 27 years old, on a 2-fight winning streak. trains out of Tata Fight Team with the likes of Thiago Murata Santos and another guy that's fighting down here, Bruno Rodriguez. Name of his game is Muay Thai. He's really heavy-handed. However, he's showing off more of his grappling game as of late. Interesting, though, that Alex Cowboy has been fighting at 170. If I'm not mistaken, this fight should be at 155. Where Alex Oliveira is pretty big for the weight class. I'm pretty high on Alex Cowboy. I think that he can outstrike Piotr Hallmann. He's kind of great. Like, the thing with Oliveira, though, is he's so, like, raw, you know? Like, even when he especially when he grapples, you can just kind of tell he's leaving space. Like, it's just like, it's something that seems, I almost want to say new to him in a sense. You know, he makes, like, small errors, like, in grappling, but he definitely tries to, you can tell he's actively trying to work at it. Choked out KJ Nance and had a grappling heavy decision on his last fight. Should be interesting, this fight being at 155, though. I like Piotr Hallmann, like I said, he's always in the fight. You know, his stand-up's good, his grappling's not that bad either. He can do just a bit of everything. He's always in the fight. Well, I think Alex Cowboy is the better athlete. I'd argue he has a better stand-up and probably the more heavy-handed fighter. So I'm going to go with Alex Oliveira. I mean, it's either going to be KO or TK. I can't see him get the sub or decision. Piotr Hallmann's pretty tough. I'll go Oliveira by decision to be safe. Next fight after that, you got two great prospects here as Gilbert Dorinho Burns fights Rashid Magomedov. Magomedov, 8-1 record, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub, 31 years old, on an 11-fight win streak. He last fought Elias Silverio back in December 2014. He knocked him out. He has some strong kickboxing, and I mean that. I mean, he cuts angles well. He's very accurate. He will strike in combination. He's hard to take down because of it. He's not always like a stationary target or anything like that. So his takedown defense has been pretty good. Gilbert Burns, 10-0 undefeated record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub. He's 29 years old, training out of the Black Zillions. He is a top-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. His overall wrestling game is pretty good, and his stand-up's improving. Here's the thing. As good as Burns is, and I think both these guys blue-chip prospects, by the way, Burns is still a work in progress. Like, his stand-up's getting a lot better, but as shown in the Alex Oliveira fight, it still needs work. And while he's a good athlete and his ground game is just next level, I think he's going to have a hard time taking down Magomedov. You know, he's not the greatest wrestler, you know. He's a good wrestler, though, Gilbert Burns. Don't get me wrong. But Magomedov's takedown defense is pretty solid. His kickboxing game is not, it's a very high level. I just feel that this might be a pretty tough stylistic matchup at this point in Burns' development. I mean, I really do feel that Burns will have to take the fight to the ground to get the win, and I can't see him doing it very consistently. So I'm going to go Rashid Magomedov to win by decision. I just think he can outstrike him and defend the takedowns. Burns is improving fight by fight. But like I said, work in progress. Magomedov, I mean, he has 19 fights at this point. I don't even know if you can really call him a prospect at this point. He's more of a finished product. And what I see from that product, I like. So, Magomedov, probably by decision here. Next fight after that, Tom Lawler fights Fabio Maldonado. Maldonado, 22-8 record, 13 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. Has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 2 losses by sub. 35 years old. I know he trains in one place that's he consistently trains at is Pitbull Brothers. I know he trains at other places though. He has good offensive boxing with real high volume. If he gets you against a cage, he is just going to start throwing short hooks to the body and head and uppercuts and whatnot. He has really good body punches and a really strong chin. However, he is pretty weak on the ground and he has next to no stand-up defense. Tom Lawler, 10-5 record with 1 no contest, 4 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub. That's his 2 losses by submission, 32 years old on a 2-fight win streak. Most recently knocked out John Vellante. Lawler's actually a good wrestler. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game's pretty solid. And his stand-up's good too. He's a really solid, he doesn't really stand out in any one aspect of MMA, but he's solid everywhere. I'm going to go Tom Lawler to win actually by submission. I'm hoping Tom Lawler just fights smart. Really, I hope he just takes the fight to the ground and works a sub game. There's no reason to fight Maldonado in his strength. And like I said, Lawler, he's a good grappler. He can wrestle. He can grapple pretty well. So, I don't know if he likes to just stand with Maldonado. I don't know if he's going to get knocked out or anything like that. Maldonado's not a one-punch knockout type guy, but he could be worn down. So I'd like to see Lawler hopefully utilize his wrestling game and get the sub. On to the prelims, which is also on Fox Sports 1. Gleison Tibau fights Abel Killa Trujillo. Trujillo, 12-6 record with 1 no contest, 5 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by sub. That's his 3 losses by submission, 32 years old, training out of Black Zillions. Super aggressive guy. He has good stand-up and he's heavy-handed. And his wrestling's good. His problem is that he fades relatively early in his fights. He is an early storm type of fighter. You weather the early storm, you usually get the win. Gleison Tibau, 33-11 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 13 wins by sub. He also has 3 losses by KO TKO and 2 losses by sub. 32 years old, training out of ATT. He is the gatekeeper for lightweight. You beat Gleison Tibau, you can generally fight the top 10 guys. He's a notorious grinder. Huge. Both these guys are huge for the weight class, by the way. But Tibau is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Once he takes you to the ground, he has really good top control. His stand-up is improving. However, he is a guy that almost always fades in the 3rd round. I mean, his first 2 rounds are good, and then the 3rd round, he just fades bad. So you got a guy who fades late versus a guy who fades early. With that said, it really depends if Tibau doesn't just get blasted in that first round by Trujillo. I think Tibau's going to win the fight. I think eventually he'll just be able to take the fight to the ground, grind, and maybe even get the sub. I'm going to go Gleison Tibau by submission. Next right after that, Jan Cabral fights Johnny Case. Cabral, 12-1 record, 11 wins by sub. 1 win by decision. He's 32 years old. He's actually going to be the shorter fighter at 6 foot, whereas Johnny Case is 6'1". Cabral does train at Nova União. He's a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Really good there. Stand-up, it's average at best. Johnny Case, 21-4 record, 12 wins by KO TKO, 6 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO and 2 losses by sub. 26 years old, going to be a taller fighter at 6'1". He's on an 11-fight win streak, and he trains at a Power MMA. He's one of those guys that used to train at Alliance and just made the exodus to Power MMA. Everything about this guy's good. His stand-up's good. It's looking real solid. He's got a good left hook. His wrestling, both offensively and defensively, is really improving. And he's got some good ground and pound, too. I actually think he's going to win by KO or TKO. I think Johnny Case can beat Cabral in the stand-up. He can probably get top position as good as Cabral is in his jiu-jitsu. I think Case can stay in top position, get his ground and pound going. And yeah, I'm going to go Johnny Case by KO or TKO. And if he does win this fight, I would really like to see him get a step up in competition. He looks like he can generally beat this level of competition so far, and I think he needs to step up. Next fight after that, Clay the Carpenter Guida fights Thiago Tavares. Tavares, 19-6 record with 1 draw, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 13 wins by sub. Has 4 losses by KO or TKO. 30 years old, trains out of Team Tavares. He's a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Good offensive takedowns, especially if he gets his opponent against a cage. Striking is improving. It's not that bad, but his chin just isn't that good. Clay Guida, 32-15 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 15 wins by sub. Also has 7 losses by submission. 33 years old, training out of wait, I know he used to train at Jackson Winklejohn. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's a report that he's now one of the Elevation Fight Team guys. The Elevation Fight Team has been picking up guys like, of course, TJ Dillashaw and Matt Brown. And then they have like Brandon Thatch, Neil Magny, Kat Zingano on their team as well. Right now he's trading wins and losses. Jeez, I forgot if he's coming off a win or loss now. I think it's a win. He's a good wrestler. He's really relentless about getting to takedowns. In a way that's similar to Thiago Tavares. Like, he gets his opponent against a cage, forces that takedown. He has good top control. However, I always found his stand-up to be a bit below average. It's more style than substance in the sense that he moves around a lot, but he doesn't actually, like, throw. And then when he does throw, it's not the most technically sound. With that said, I know the judges really like Clay Guida's style fighting. Stylistically, there are some things that really work for Tavares. Most of Guida's losses are by submission. You know, Thiago Tavares is a good scrambler. He's a guy that can fade a bit late. Tavares' Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is really good. He might arguably have the better technical stand-up. I just don't know if he can deal with Clay Guida's pace. Because one thing about Thiago Tavares is he's never been like a not never. Actually, there's like the Tyson Griffin fight. But as of late, he hasn't been like this like fast-paced fighter or anything like that. So I am going to go with Clay Guida to win this one by decision. This is funny. I'm actually picking I'm picking a good amount of Brazilians to beat the non-Brazilians. But there's some here that, yeah, I'm definitely not picking here. Next fight, that Skelly fights Edmilson Kevin Souza. I know he likes to go by Kevin. Kevin Souza, 15-3 record, 13 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. That's has 3 losses by submission, 30 years old. He's tall for a weight class at 6 foot, but Skelly is actually 5'11", so he's pretty tall too. Souza is on a 10-fight win streak. He most recently just knocked out Kikuno. Knocked him out bad too. He has some strong boxing. It's funny though, I say that, but his strike selection honestly consists of a cross and a lead hook. Like seriously, it's like he doesn't throw a jab, doesn't really throw an uppercut. He throws a cross and a left hook and just alternates between the two. But he's real heavy-handed, and his grappling just average at best. Skelly, 14-1 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 7 wins by sub, 30 years old. Like I said, he's 5'11", on a 3-fight win streak, trains out of Team Takedown. He's a strong wrestler. He has good back control too. He really aims to take the back if he takes the opponent down. His stand-up is actually improving. Knocked out Jim Ehlers in his last fight. He's still a bit awkward in the way he strikes and the way he moves. But you can tell there's power in his strikes, and you know, he's definitely working on it. I like Skelly to win this one. I like Kevin Souza. I mean, if Skelly stands with Souza for a while, I think there's a good chance he could lose. But Skelly always has that wrestling in his back pocket to go to. He has, like I said, good back control. I'm actually going to go with Skelly to win by submission. I think he can take him down, maybe take the back or get a dominant position and get like some sort of submission. So Skelly for the win here. Next fight after that, on the UFC Fight Pass prelims. You have Viscardi Andrade versus Gleison Umalatov. Both these guys haven't fought in a while, so I made it a point to rewatch their fights. So I watched like Andrade's blast Bristol Burundi. Then I saw him fight Nico Musoke. And with Umalatov, I watched his fight against Cathal Pendred. Umalatov, 15-4 record with 1 draw, 2 wins by KO TKO, 7 wins by sub. 32 years old, training out of Fight Night's team. He's trading losses and wins right now. I think he's coming off the loss to Cathal Pendred, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Yeah. And I thought he should have won, actually. Last fought in October 2014. His boxing's good. And his takedown defense is solid. With Viscardi Andrade, 17-6 record, 5 wins by KO TKO, 6 wins by sub, 31 years old. Last fought, I believe, is against Nico Musoke back in February of 2014. He has some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. He hasn't shown it too much in the UFC, in those 2 fights he's had in the UFC. But his stand-up's definitely improving. He's actually shown to be a bit heavy-handed. Knocked out Marunde. Actually knocked down Musoke. However, like, Andrade, after a while, he tends to just, like, throw haymakers. He really relies on that overhand right. And gets a bit sloppy brawling. Becomes something of a sloppy brawler. Tough one for me to call, actually, because both these guys are on the low end of the division. I kind of like, on a technical level, I just like Gleison Umalatov's striking a little better. And like I say, he does have some solid takedown defense. So I'll go with Gleison Umalatov to win this one by decision. Can't say I'm super confident in the pick, though, because both lower level guys, not great, but, you know, they're good enough. Next right after that, we got 2 prospects as Jimmie Rivera fights Pedro Munhoz. Pedro Munhoz, 12-1 record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 7 wins by sub, 29 years old, on a 2-fight win streak, training out of Black House and Kings MMA. He last fought in October of 2014. He has some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. That's really his base. But, you know, I can tell he's working with Cadero because his stand-up's really... Cadero is really good at turning, like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys into, like, good strikers. So I can tell Munhoz is really improving his striking. Jimmie Rivera, 17-1 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub, 26 years old, on a 16-fight win streak, training out of Team Tiger Schulman. I really like... not really like, but I think Team Tiger Schulman is actually shown to be a pretty decent camp. Yeah, they produce like Uriah Hall and Lyman Good. Like, they're solid fighters. With Rivera, his wrestling's pretty solid. He can scramble pretty well. And his stand-up's improving to the point where he's showing some KO power. I think he's actually knocked out... I know he knocked out his last opponent in the UFC. It was Brimage. Knocked out Brimage. And before that, he got a knockout one, too. So he looks like a guy that's really finally put everything together now. You know, he can strike well. He has some finishing... Like, you know, you look at his record, 6 finishes. But, like, lately he's been finishing more opponents. So he's finding more finishing power in his strikes. And he's already a pretty good wrestler, too. With Munhoz, he's still a work in progress. That's the thing. His ground game is awesome. But his stand-up, while it's improving, is still work in progress. Whereas Jimmie Rivera, I think at this point, you know, he's 26 and he's definitely improving. He already has 18 fights. I think he's close to a finished product as he'll ever be. And because of that, I can see him winning this fight. I think Munhoz might have a hard time taking him down to get like any type of a submission going on him. I think Rivera at this point might just have the better striking. So yeah, I'll go Jimmie Rivera by decision. And then finally, Matheus Nicolai Pereira fights Bruno Correa Rodriguez. Rodriguez, 4-0 undefeated record, 3 wins by sub, 1 win by decision. Trains at a Tata Fight Team. It's his first fight in the UFC. Here's the thing with Pereira, and I've seen this. I watched one of his fights on YouTube before The Ultimate Fighter. And then I saw his fight against Reginald Venera. Reginaldo Vieira in The Ultimate Fighter, Brazil. He has a real kick-heavy stand-up style. He'll go for like these flashy, unorthodox kicks, spinning back kicks and whatnot. But he throws a lot of single strikes. Like his hands aren't that good. He backs up a lot. He doesn't look like he takes a hit very well. But he does have some good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. His ability to take the fight to the ground, not that great. Pereira, 10-1 record with 1 draw, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He's only 22 years old, on a 3-fight win streak, and he trains on the Nova União. It's his first fight in the UFC. I was watching one of his fights too, before The Ultimate Fighter. I like Pereira's game. I think his stand-up's pretty solid. He hits pretty hard. His overall grappling game is solid as well. I gotta go with Matheus Nicolai Pereira to get the win by decision. Okay, let's recap on the main card. Vitor Belfort beating Dan Henderson by KO or TKO. Gilbert Teixeira beating Pedro Cummins by... I forgot. I'm so sorry, guys. I am totally blanking and my method of victory here now. I didn't write it down either. So I'll just go say who the winners are. Gilbert Teixeira over Patrick Cummins. Thomas Almeida over Anthony Birchak. Alex Oliveira beating Piotr Hallmann. Rashid Magomedov over Gilbert Burns. Tom Lawler over Fabio Maldonado. On the Fox Sport 1 prelims, I have Gleison Tibau over Abel Trujillo. Johnny Case beating Jan Cabral. Clay Guida over Thiago Tavares. Skelly beating Edelmilson Souza. And on the Fight Pass prelims, I have Gleison over Viscardi Andrade. Jimmie Rivera beating Pedro Munhoz. And Matheus Nicolai Pereira over Bruno Rodriguez. So that's it for my predictions for UFC Fight Night 77, Belfort versus Henderson 3. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.